The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Bell Medical. A 51-year-old Weber County man died Thursday after collapsing while snowmobiling in a remote area of Cache County known as Scare Canyon, according to authorities. Deputies with the Cache County Sheriff's Office said the man was riding with a group about 10 miles south of Hardware Ranch when he complained of breathing issues and stopped his snowmobile around 4:30 p.m. At that point, the others went to an area with cell service so they could make a phone call for help. Upon returning, they noticed the man was no longer on the snowmobile but was laying on the ground, unresponsive. After finding the man collapsed, the group attempted life-saving efforts for about 25 minutes with no success, according to officials. A medical helicopter, deputies, and search and rescue personnel responded quickly but were unable to revive the man. He was pronounced dead by the medical examiner on scene. Search and rescue crews used snow vehicles to recover the man and transport him to the Hardware Ranch parking area, where his body was released to a mortuary. Authorities did not immediately release the man's name pending notification of relatives. The county's sheriff's office is investigating the death. A pair of administrators who both spent part of their careers in Arizona's university system have joined Utah State University President Elizabeth Cantwell's leadership team. She announced the new additions Thursday. John O'Neill is the new vice president for operational strategy and will serve as special advisor to Cantwell. O'Neill, like Dr. Cantwell, served as a vice president at the University of Arizona. And before joining the U of A in 2019, he spent 15 years in leadership roles at the National Security Directorate, Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Carrie R. Davidson was named Vice President of Institutional Affairs as well as Cantwell's Chief of Staff. She has been Executive Director and Chief of Staff of the Arizona State University Public Enterprise and concurrently led its office of the Executive Vice President and served as Chief Operating Officer. The new appointees reported to work today. And the airfield at Hill Air Force Base will shut down for the next 24 hours after a jet made an emergency belly landing Thursday afternoon. Officials report an F-5AT jet belonging to a private military contractor, Tactical Air Support, was headed to the base for training when the incident happened. The pilot made an emergency landing at the airfield, landing the aircraft on its belly with its landing gear up. As a precaution, the pilot, the only occupant on board, was taken to the hospital. After the emergency landing, Hill Air Force Base reported they would close the airfield for 24 hours in order to clean up any debris from the emergency landing that could compromise the runway. KVNU weather, winter storm warning remains in effect for the mountains. A winter weather advisory in effect for the Cache Valley starting at 1 o'clock Saturday to 5 p.m. Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of snow expected. And also a wind advisory in effect from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tomorrow for the valley. Winds could gust as high close to 40 miles per hour during the early part of the day on Saturday. Actually, winds gusting up to, I read the wrong thing, winds gusting up to around 55 miles per hour expected early on Saturday. That being said, with all the snow, rain is in the forecast for tonight. Rain showers, and then at some point late in the morning, early in the afternoon, rain changing to snow and temperatures falling. Today's high was 55. Get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
Curious about Bell Sculpt and what sets it apart from other cosmetic treatments? At Bell Medical, we specialize in minimally invasive body sculpting, which means no general anesthesia, so you're awake and comfortable throughout. You can even watch fat being removed. Unlike those who freeze fat cells, we permanently remove them, providing instant results in just one visit. With Bell Sculpt, you're guaranteed 2 to 5 inches of fat loss, all in a safe and effective way. Schedule your free consultation at our Bountiful Clinic at bellmedical.com. That's BELLE medical.com.
Insuring your business can be frustrating. If you are confused about coverages, your rates are increasing, or you can't get a hold of your agent, it's time for a change. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. We do return your calls because we work for you. We believe that protecting your business should be affordable and hassle-free. As an independent agency, we have access to multiple carriers like Auto Owners Insurance and will give you options. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
Hey, I'm ABC's Daria Albinger. Gather up your W-2s and your 1099s because it's that time of year again. The tax filing deadline is right around the corner. We've got you covered every step of the way, from getting organized to filing to receiving your refund. We'll bring you advice from accountants, industry insiders, and yes, even the IRS. So join me for tax tips from ABC News now through the filing deadline, right here.
Weekday mornings at 9:50 on News Talk KVNU.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello, this is Robert.
My name is Will Feelright. I'm calling from KVNU. I understand you're a hospice nurse. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Well, someone in our community had contacted us anonymously, told us about some of the work that you have done helping their family members. And so to tell you thanks, we've got a $40 gift card for you from Firehouse Subs.
Oh, well, that's great. I enjoy what I do, and if I can make a difference, it's worth it. Thank you.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU.
It's okay. I'm here. It's been a while since you've had one of those nightmares. Tell me, what was it about?
It's only fragments. Nothing's clear. We've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
Look!
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
Welcome to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan here in the studio. That, a bit from the Dune Part 2 trailer.
Johnny.
Starring Christopher Walken.
Johnny. Yeah, I actually was really disappointed. You know, my problem is growing up in the 80s.
Walken?
And no, my problem is growing up in the 80s and having watched the David Lynch version. And I should also point out, too, that, you know, you and I are very similar. We've read the book multiple times. We were very fond of the first Denis Villeneuve Dune Part 1.
Probably the best. Part 1, probably the best adaptation of the book.
Yeah, I agree.
Ever. Although the Sci-Fi Channel, don't sleep on the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries. Everyone does because the special effect, it was pretty low budget. Yeah. It was kind of hokey, and the follow-up.
It feels like
great,
it feels like.
It's dated.
It feels like a Lifetime, in sci-fi.
The acting isn't
Christmas
great.
on Arrakis.
But it follows. That is probably the most true to the book.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's a crazy.
Yeah. Just quickly to get this out of the way, I have a hard time sometimes when they put iconic actors in certain roles. And so I really wish
Christopher Walken.
Like Christopher Walken, because the entire time that he's doing the Emperor stuff, all I can hear and think in my head.
I'll be honest, fellas, it was sounding great, but
yeah,
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Yep.
He's just always Christopher Walken, no matter what he's saying or doing.
I made the joke that when he shows up, that when they were like, this Muad'Dib is really making a mess on Arrakis. I keep wanting to say Arrakis.
Arrakis.
That's actually on our planet. And then I wanted him to be like, wow, you know?
Yeah. Good night, Moon.
Wow. This Paul Muad'Dib.
What are you doing?
Listen.
The other thing, so this, I'm currently. This is the other struggle I had.
You and your worms.
This is the other struggle.
I got to get out of here.
The other struggle I had with it. So I'm also currently watching the Tom Hanks executive produced Masters of the Air on Apple TV.
So you're having
Apple
a hard
Plus.
time with
and so
Fade.
I can't remember his name in real life, but the guy who plays Fade is also the main character in this series I haven't finished yet. And now
he was also Elvis.
And he was Elvis. And so now I can't. Now I'm going to go watch Masters of the Air, and he's going to be creepy now. But
can I got to read you something really funny.
Does it feel like this Dune Part 2 is now? This is always for fans. This I think.
Yes.
Villeneuve said, "I realize I'm not going to convert people necessarily," but he ended up doing that. I think with Part 1. I think he made people who had never had an interest in the book or the slow, talky kind of sci-fi, which Dune definitely is, the slower, talky kind of sci-fi. He said, I realize this is not for everyone. I wanted to make this. It ends up being this huge hit. Now, in Part 2, I feel like this is really going to test the new converts because this is very much for people who have read the book.
This is Deep Desert Dune.
Yeah, this is
Deep Desert Dune.
Yeah, it's a bit slower than the first even.
Can I give I got to give a quick shout out to my the folks.
I just saw your text. Sorry.
I got to give a quick shout out to the folks that I work with. Especially my
this water tastes off.
Especially my the Wichita and Georgia crews, because we had this chat today. Somebody said, "Hey, it's International Women's Day," and I was like, "Awesome!" Also, Happy Dune 2 Day to all those who celebrate. And there was a portion of the crew that was like, "I don't even know why are we having this conversation, right?" Because Dune is like deep sci-fi. Like it's not. This is not. This isn't Star Wars, and it's definitely not even. It's not even Star Trek. So, one of my coworkers said something really funny that made me laugh. When he was trying to explain what Dune was, and he said, "It just makes me laugh thinking about it." He said, "Aquaman has to help Timothée Chalamet ride a worm to save Zendaya's family." I didn't say that right. Zendaya's family. Why did I say Zendaya? That's a different person. Anyhow, and then I added, and Thanos drops in to help Timothy and the killer from No Country for Old Men fight Elvis and Drax. So that's I think that should be the review right there, Jason. Is you just got to use other people to explain the glory of the movie. But yeah, I have to think. I need to see it again. In not the Providence Stadium 8 Murder Theater. I need to see it on IMAX and give it. It's interesting.
It's beautiful. Like the first one.
Some of my film critic colleagues here in the Utah Film Critics Association have said that the second viewing really magnifies how great Dune 2 is, and so this is what
it was the same with the first for me.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it more the second time around.
I do need to say something though, and I'm going to get a little controversial here. This is if I had turned my phone on, I would have taken a picture of this. This is going to be my get off the lawn moment for this radio hour. My issue is putting in all these luxury seats that we do now in theaters, right? And the Megaplex is loading up. And the problem, and I give some sympathy.
I say this as somebody who just purchased two for my second.
No, they're fine. They're fine.
But that was more of a joke for the person I'm going with.
I don't buy luxury seats because
they're not actually very comfortable.
No, not because of the expense of it. I don't buy them because if I lay back in a movie, I might as well. Good night. Anyway, but here's my issue.
Twice, and the second time I accidentally turned the heater on, and I'm like, man, it is hot in this theater.
Like, woo, toasty. Anyway, no, here's my issue. My issue is I realize the Megaplex chain inherited two of the crappiest movie theaters ever built in the history of movie theater building.
Yeah.
The Westgates did not.
Poorly
they were just like, what if we put up a shed and throw some seats in it? With no soundproofing.
Sounds like that when it rains too.
Yeah. It still does a little bit.
When it rains.
And so, to Megaplex's credit, I will say this: they have polished these theaters as best as they can, and they are markedly better than they were when they were under West State's ownerships. But here's my issue:
the luxury seating thing is just kind of
it's a danger.
Sell seats.
This is my get off my lawn comment for today. Go to I haven't inspected every single theater at the Stadium 8 theater, right? But here's my issue. In Theater 1, their biggest theater, if you sit on that front row.
Now, is that the one that's technically in the center of the building?
No, this would be
from two doors.
Not.
You're talking down here.
Yeah,
south end.
Yeah. Sorry, Providence.
University has
Providence
2 doors.
Yep. Here's the issue. So, normally where they have seats for like people with disabilities in the front, right? They've put more of those luxury recliners there.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they've done this, but they've put some type of base behind it that actually takes up space for where you're supposed to walk to get to your seat in the front row. And people were literally tripping over that. They would like grab the seat in front of them. They'd fall in people's laps.
That's not good.
And I just thought to myself, what if there was a fire
and people
some
need to make
other
a quick exit?
Yeah, it was. Honestly, I'm going to go back. This is my get off my lawn moment. But I somebody needs to call that out, like I'm doing right now, to Megaplex and let them see that, because that is a travesty, like just waiting to happen. It kind of honestly dampened the show for me a little bit because and then the problem is you don't have anywhere to put your feet, so you prop your feet up and you're like, it's like you're getting an exam.
And your shoes are in.
I
was on that.
Hey,
row.
I'm sorry.
I was on that row last night, and the person in the luxury seat in front of me stretched his arms out and grabbed my shoes.
You were like,
which I wouldn't have touched my shoes, but
you're like, hey, do you like that?
Yeah, but I didn't want to put my feet up because I'm thinking this is a place where people put their hands, but you don't really have a choice.
Yep.
Because there wasn't enough room to cross your legs or stretch out in any way. I
dampened the experience.
I really
poor
with you.
decisions.
I think the theaters in general and D-Box. Can we get
rid of it?
Nobody likes this. If you've ever watched a movie in D-Box, it's actually extremely distracting. And
you know what the D stands for?
Not at all worth. The people who like it, but it really it is distracting. It's not worth the. I mean, if something blows up on the screen and your butt vibrates,
I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm right there. Have you actually?
Although I do want to try one of those full sense theaters. Have you seen that?
No,
where they do smells and temperature and everything.
So it's like soaring over California.
That could actually be kind of fun if you're careful which movie you choose. Because nobody wants to smell Heath Ledger's Joker in real life, because that purple suit doesn't breathe. But
something smells like. Did somebody piping in baloney through the air conditioning vent? Like, what is going on? Let me tell you something. I need to show you this during the break.
What smells do you do for a movie like Dune? Oh, never mind. I just thought of
Dune. That's my favorite.
So,
that's my favorite part.
For some reason, in Dune 2, they go into great detail about the still suits. Everyone wanted to know this after the first one. Okay, so does it recycle everything? And in Dune 2, they're like,
perspiration.
Yeah, actually it does, and we're going to tell you how it works.
Somebody was...
And that was unnecessary, I think.
Did you see the deleted scene where Timothée Chalamet is like in the middle of the desert, and they're like, you look a little tepid, Muad'Dib? And he was like, yeah, I haven't been drinking my water. And they were like, why? And he's like... It doesn't taste right.
I found out that it recycles everything.
It says it tastes like Taco Tuesday.
They, speaking of that being in the desert, so Fade, I really don't remember the actor's name. Do you?
I can look it up.
He was Elvis. He's Bucky in Masters of the Air. Anyway,
Bucky's a good name.
There's two Buckys. There's Buck and Bucky in Masters of the Air. But which is not at all confusing.
When I say his name, you're going to go,
they couldn't keep
Austin Butler. Why can't
Austin Butler?
I know.
They had a trouble with his makeup and his bald cap.
I thought they shaved his eyebrows. Did that not happen?
They did shave his eyebrows, but
that's what I thought.
They didn't shave his head. It was a bald cap, and then the makeup. So Harkonians don't like sun or happiness or smiling, and so they
or sitting with proper posture as a look at the Baron's hump neck.
Well, so I guess they had to go back and film a lot of his scenes that were filmed on an actual location. They had to go back and film them on a sound stage for close-ups.
Yeah.
So the gladiator style scene in Dune 2, a lot of the close-up portions of that, it was on location at a big arena somewhere where they filmed this, but they had to go back and on a soundstage film some of the close-up shots of the fights because his makeup was so bad running off of him, and the bald cap was peeling up, and so apparently they ran into a lot of production trouble on this one, more so than the first one. But
well, I'll tell you what I was so there was a few surprises to me. I mean, as we get into this,
do you want to hold that for after the break? The surprises.
Yeah, the surprises, and the other thing too is, I mean, this is going to make a grind a load of money. It's
and it deserves to.
It is. I would say I can't not give it the same grade I gave the first Dune, right? But I will say, I thought it. Well, we can get into that when we come back, because I have some thoughts about the ending. I have some thoughts about...
I left the theater thinking, is this how people felt when they saw Empire Strikes Back for the first time?
Yeah,
but the third movie wasn't out yet?
Unless Empire Strikes... Well, anyway.
Yeah, unless there wasn't
spoiler
a
alert.
Return of the Jedi?
Because
right? We don't know if there's going to be a
maybe
third
we
one.
didn't know. I mean, I don't...
Yeah.
I wish they should say like the...
It was a weird movie-going experience.
Remember at the end of Empire Strikes Back when Lando turned to Chewie and he went... Boy, I hope that someday we see the return of a Jedi.
That was.
And you're like, oh, that's got to be the third.
Got to be the third one.
That's got to be the third one.
This one, we don't know if there's going to be a third one. And well, I'll tell you some of the commentary from the crowd I heard leaving the theater last night that sort of made me chuckle. The For the People movie show continues right after this.
We're going to have an amazing year for local gardens, which means you need the best and newest varieties of seeds available. Anderson Seed and Garden has them, and they make it so simple to get your bulk seeds in-store or order online for in-store pickup before it gets crowded. They even have curated seed collections to help choose and grow a successful garden. Go to AndersonSeedandGarden.com. Once you're there, it's easy to search out your seeds to order. Come see what's new at Anderson Seed and Garden, Logan.
Snow, rain, or sunshine, the Utah weather is unpredictable. This is Mark, an injury attorney with the Advocates. No matter what the weather is in Utah, we all need to be aware while driving or even walking into your favorite store. If you've been injured in a car, trucking, or slip and fall accident and haven't spoken to an injury attorney yet, call the Advocates today. There is no cost to you to find out if you have a case. Chat online at utahadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550. You deserve an advocate.
100 plus businesses, thousands of people, free parking, Main Street access. It's the Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show presented by Anderson Seed and Garden at the Eccles Ice and Events Center, March 22nd and 23rd. If you are a home and garden business, from crafts to home building or excavation to emergency preparedness, this show is for you. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show or call 752-1390 for details.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show. Talking Dune Part 2 with Andy Morgan here in the studio. And Andy, I realize this is going to be really hard to talk about without spoilers.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to be like, you know what?
The book's 70 years old.
You guys are going to have to deal with the spoilers.
65 years old.
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts, initial thoughts, and you and I shared one of these with you already, but, you know, for... The Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 are massively faithful to the book. The book is not...
I wonder if they would be better back to back. That's a long watch. But
you know the interesting thing is the David Lynch version from the 1980s, while just weird in so many ways, right? And obviously dated in the effects and things like that. And it's very condensed, right? Because you're doing the whole Dune story, for the most part, the whole Dune book in one movie.
The only thing Lynch added in was the scene where the aliens are doing the space folding, because that's never described in the book.
There's a lot of stuff
that's one
that
of the weirdest scenes in the movie.
Villeneuve,
like bad animation of these like squid-like aliens shooting
their little
space folding stuff out of their
They're like
mouths.
little space gerbils.
Yeah, and they sort of just toot around the screen and it's like a 7-minute long scene. It's really weird.
That was a little weird.
And that was Lynch's addition.
But what I noticed about that is for all the kind of grotesque imagery, which is a hallmark of David Lynch.
Yeah.
The movie is marvelously more romantic.
Yeah.
In
I
its
always wondered
interpretation
if somebody
Dune.
went back and re-edited that, I wondered if it would actually be a good movie.
It's a lot more. It's weirdly, it's lighter than these last two that are the Villeneuve Dunes. But
Which
I will
is actually
say,
kind of strange though, because the Baron still does a lot of the things that he does. Like in Lynch's version, he kills the teen boy he's been molesting, basically. But the way Lynch does it, it becomes sort of campy and.
Well, it's actually kind of gross.
Yeah,
I actually think it's probably grosser.
Yeah,
but the one I think the difference between the Villeneuve version and the Lynch version of that is that the Villeneuve version, it's just too real. It's almost chilling. The other one is gross.
But it's ironic because you don't see it in this new version at all. You hear it.
It's too real.
Yeah, and Lynch's version, you actually see it happen, but it's this campy heart plug.
Yeah,
way too bright blood kind of thing. So yeah, that was my point, I guess, is somehow Villeneuve makes it actually, because you're supposed to hate the Baron,
right?
And he makes you do that with this very short scene that is really just something you hear and not see. Whereas Lynch showed it to you. And
he's very calculating.
He's a good director that way.
Yeah. No, I mean, one thing, anyone that's familiar with Denis Villeneuve's filmography, right, going back to Prisoners, to Enemy, to Sicario, to Arrival, to Dune. I mean, he's just, the guy knows how to put an image on the screen, and he knows how to create tension. I mean, he's a great.
Arrival's amazing that way because it's actually a really slow movie. If you think about it, not a lot happens, but it's extremely tense.
I just made myself sound like Tony Bennett there, so I'll go out by saying, "What a great show, Jason! Just a great guy, great director." A tuxedo tomcat.
For more of Andy Morgan's Tony Bennett impression and some Dune 2 talk, we're going to probably spend the whole hour on this. It was a pretty complex movie. It's almost 3 hours long. Dune Part 2 in theaters here in Logan. And, yes, you should go see it, but hear what else we have to say first. We'll be back with more of the movie show after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News brought to you by Roof Rescue. A bill aimed at cracking down on road rage in Utah has cleared the legislature. On Wednesday, the Senate passed HB 30, a bill that addresses road rage events. Utah Highway Patrol Colonel Michael Rapich said road rage incidents have been increasing in the Beehive State. The Utah Department of Public Safety from 2022 to 23 saw an 11% increase in aggressive road rage-related crashes statewide. The bill not only helps define what road rage is, but Representative Paul Cutler, the bill's sponsor, says it gives both officers and prosecutors more tools to go after the most egregious offenders. Cutler says the bill would put an enhanced penalty, whether it's enhanced jail time or enhanced fines, on the most serious road rage cases. The extra money from the fines, Cutler said, will be put towards a road rage education and prevention fund. Two measures to make it easier for first-time homebuyers to enter the housing market passed the legislature this week and are on their way to the governor's desk. The Utah Senate tacked on an amendment to HB 572, which makes it easier for small banks to participate in the Utah Homes Investment Program. On a vote of 22-1 with 6 absent, HB 572 went back to the Utah House. The measure makes use of state surplus money to reduce the developers' costs to borrow money to build starter homes. Developers taking part in the program would have to commit to having 60% of the homes built with program funds be starter homes. defined as 1,400 square feet and about $350,000. The bill now goes to the governor's desk. Also passing the legislature was HB 13, which creates infrastructure financing districts, which will provide lower interest loans through publicly issued bonds to help developers put in streets, curb and gutter, sewer, and other infrastructure. The bond money would be less expensive than commercial loans. Steve Waldrop, senior advisor to Governor Cox on housing strategy and innovation, says both bills are a great first step to helping first-time homebuyers get into the housing market. Utah State Aggie men's basketball back in the Spectrum tonight as they host Air Force for a 9 o'clock game tonight. We'll have it for you on KBNU, beginning with Aggie Game Day with Al Lewis, straight up 8 o'clock, joined by former Aggie great Jalen Moore. Jalen and Al back with John Russell after the game for Aggie Call tonight on KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture, family owned and operated for 95 years. Bring in your tax return. Closeout prices on select mattress models, including displays. There's always a better buy at U&I. Winter storm warning remains in effect for the mountains until 11 o'clock Saturday, and a winter weather advisory in effect from 1 p.m. Saturday to 5 p.m. Sunday for the Cache Valley. Total snow accumulations 2 to 5 inches. Also a wind advisory in effect from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. South winds 25 to 35 with gusts up to 55 miles per hour expected in Cache Valley, Utah portion, also eastern Box Elder County as well. Rain in the forecast for tonight, then rain changing to snow on Saturday. It was mild today, 55 was our high. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
Roof Rescue is your local roofing specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. President Biden says he's hopeful, but he doesn't think Israel and Hamas can agree to terms of a new ceasefire by Monday.
No, I was just saying, it looks like it's not there yet. President Biden? I think we'll get there, but it's not there yet, and it may not get there now.
He says the U.S. and its allies will soon begin humanitarian aid airdrops into Gaza. At least 2 people are dead and 1 million acres have burned in the largest wildfire in the history of Texas. No ruling on a start date for President Trump's classified documents case. After a hearing today, Mr. Trump was in the courtroom. His lawyers still want the trial dismissed, claiming presidential immunity. The Supreme Court will rule on that by this summer. Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski has endorsed GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley. A Colorado paramedic sentenced to 5 years in prison for the death of Elijah McClain. This is ABC News.
Here's what some of our patients have to say about how Red River has changed their lives.
So before I started at Red River, I was having a lot of stomach pain. I was overweight, severe anxiety. I had been to multiple doctors. We had done tests and no one could find anything that was wrong. And then a friend mentioned Red River and I went and saw him, and it has changed my whole life. I'm sleeping through the night. I have energy for my kids. I've lost 30 pounds. No more stomach pains. I just feel really good.
Our goal is to focus on imbalances that are driving your condition or symptoms, not just give you Band-Aid answers. So when a patient comes to our office, we'll sit down with them extensively and go over their blood work to find out the underlying imbalances driving their symptoms.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER. With offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
The Logan Home Show is back. Join us March 1st and 2nd at the Cache County Event Center. Save big on all your home improvement projects and meet local remodeling experts. Bring friends and family to see what's new in home improvement and craft and design. Check out the model bathrooms, home exterior designs, and sit in on the many demonstrations going on each day. Admission and parking are free. See you this weekend at the Cache County Event Center.
Woo! Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People movie show with Sandy Morgan here in the studio, spending the hour on Dune Part 2. Quickly, is there anything else in theaters this weekend?
No, but I would like you to, next time we go out, I would like you to yell as loud as possible, "Father, the sleeper has awakened."
That was...
You're really bummed out they didn't do that?
That wasn't in the movie, and yeah.
I can't remember in the book when. So in the Lynch version when he's fighting Sting,
they do it in the Lynch version.
But remember when he's fighting Sting at the end and he stabs him, and then he kind of does that like in his face, like he taunted him after he was dead. He basically goes, "Wah!" And his body kind of goes,
yeah. Which was weird because he's anyway.
It was what is that the weirding way?
Yeah,
right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah. Which they kind of made up for that movie because... So, we should talk about this. Dune's a little bit complex because it's
the book is very deep.
Well, it's similar... The book is similar to George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones books, the Song of Ice and Fire books.
Yeah, people say Lord of the Rings all the time, and I'm like, no.
It's closer to... I think... So, there are a couple of things. First off, Darth Vader's story from George Lucas, the entire arc from good guy to Darth Vader... to Revenge of the Sith and then Redemption. He actually lifted the entire thing from Dune.
Yeah.
And Frank Herbert commented on that, and he wasn't mad about it.
Well, you get some serious Anakin vibes in Dune Part 2.
But Dune came out like 30 years before Star Wars, and so... but Frank Herbert, before his death, was asked about that, if he felt that Lucas had ripped him off, and he said, no, these are like, if you think about it, these are
universal.
These are universal themes that are in every fairy tale we've ever heard,
journey,
every legend we've ever, the hero's journey, hero's fall, hero's redemption, all that stuff. So it's very similar. Paul's story is very similar to Darth Vader's story.
Yeah.
But then there's also this. So people have speculated forever on Herbert. Was he an atheist? Herbert? I think described himself as a lapsed Catholic.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of religion.
Yeah, he thought organized religion was bent towards evil, because he said you get a bunch of people together and give them power, and they're going to want to hang on to power. And there's that element is also part of the story. The Bene Jesuit priests, but then also there are parallels to the Fremen people. He actually uses, certain Islamic phrases in the book. And so he's obviously borrowed some of their culture. But the story he's trying to tell basically is that good people often become bad people.
Uh-huh.
And power corrupts everyone.
You live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah. And that's basically the whole point of this story. And so flash forward to the end of this movie. Everyone in the theater I saw this with was disappointed, but this is actually the ending of the book.
It is, and it also, let's also point this out, because people are going to go see it and they're going to go, wait, what? Because people were like that in the screening I was at. And let's point this out, right, that Herbert himself, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, he wrote Dune, and then the second book is Dune Messiah. I don't think after that it was his kids that wrote them, right? After that it was Brian.
Herbert wrote 5 books, but the other books aren't like sequels. They're spin-offs or backstories or sort of and he was obviously just cashing in at that point.
Yeah.
And he said that himself too in an interview once. But Dune and Dune Messiah are the two exceptions, because Herbert said Dune Messiah is actually the epilogue of Dune.
Right.
But the publisher said the book was already 180,000 words. The publishers at the time, big books like that weren't popular.
No,
even in sci-fi. And so the publisher said, "Look, we're already taking a huge risk, not forcing you to split Dune into 2 books. So no, you're going to cut that epilogue, that last third of Dune. You're going to cut that off, and that'll be a different book if published at all." And so Dune Messiah, Frank Herbert said, is actually the ending of Dune, But this movie is faithful to the actual last page of the book Dune, and it's a bit cliffhangery. Without any spoilers, there was a person behind me who said, they're just trying to sucker you into the third movie. And then I wanted to say, well, you're actually going to be even more mad now when you find out there might not be a third movie. That's up in the air.
Well, so let's comment on that, because people, that's the question I got the most. And so here's what we know as of a month ago. Is the director, Denis Villeneuve, who's also the screenwriter, said that they are middle of writing the screenplay. They're almost done, from what the last interview I saw, he said. But what he did say was that he's been doing these back-to-back, and that the studio hasn't greenlit a third film. I think a lot of that will be dependent on how this does, which I assume that this is the first time in a while that I've seen a packed theater on a Thursday night. It was for a preview screening.
I looked, the one in Providence, surprisingly, University Theater was not that packed.
Yeah, the Providence
Theater
stacked.
was near sold out.
Yeah, and so there's that. We'll have to see what the box office does. But I'd also say, I would say that it's likely if Chalamet and Zendaya and like the whole crew wants to come back, I would say it's a done deal. But I would say this, that if it is greenlit and they proceed, I bet you're not going to see a Dune Messiah or Dune Part 3, however they want to title it, probably for 4 or 5 years. That would be my guess.
It's not going to be too these two, Part 1 and 2, were made together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just released 2 years apart.
Yeah. I mean, they did some other stuff later, but it was, for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that they kind of did like a Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. They filmed a lot of both movies at the same time. And then that's where, like Villeneuve said, they had to go back and redo these close-up shots with fade, because his makeup and bald cap just didn't look good in the desert when they filmed it and in the heat. Then I have to say this too: if they do a third movie, some things I think other people are disappointed about. So, for being in Dune 2 very little time, there seems to be some real disappointment that the Emperor's Daughter didn't get more of a. But if there's a third movie, and if it does follow the second book Herbert wrote, which is very short, the first book is like 900 pages. Dune is like 900 pages printed in a paperback.
Yeah.
Dune Messiah is like 350.
Yeah, it's not very long.
It's a very short book, but the Emperor's Daughter, Chani, they get a lot more.
Well, and
there are a lot bigger parts of that story. So if there's a third movie, we'll see, but yeah.
Well, let's talk about it too, because there was a couple people that showed up in this that I was actually very surprised. I mean, obviously we saw Florence Pugh in the second movie, in the first movie a little bit.
For a split
she was
second,
credited. Let's say that.
But they do flash her face for a second.
I can tell you a couple things. Well, the other two people that were very is Léa Seydoux, who shows up as one of the Bene Gesserit.
That was interesting.
Yeah, and then I thought the other one this isn't very spoilery, but I'll say it anyways, is Anna Taylor-Joy shows up. And she's a big enough name that you're like, she's on the screen for 4.5 seconds.
And that's it. But, and it's a pivotal 4.5 seconds. Like
it is. And here's a couple things that I would say that I was a little disappointed with. And I think it's because you have a hard time really showing this in the book. There's a lot of in between subtext and things like that. In a movie, you have to kind of go right into it. And I feel like in the movie, Paul going from I don't want to go south. I don't want to go south. I don't want to see the heretics. I don't want to get involved in that. I don't care what the prophecy is.
He's worried that if he follows through on this destiny that everybody keeps telling him he has, if he becomes what do they call it? The
Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah, if he becomes the Kwisatz Haderach, the Messiah, he's worried that they get into the politics of Dune a little bit, of Arrakis a little bit. That up north, the Fremen are a bit more urban and educated, and down south, the southern part of the planet, they're a bit more rural,
fanatic,
and fundamentalist with their beliefs.
Yeah.
And Paul is convinced that if he lets himself become seen as the Messiah, which everyone wants him to be, to lead the Fremen people to freedom, that the fundamentalists are going to turn it into a holy war.
Yeah.
And so he resists that.
Yep.
And then Yeah. Just at a certain point in the movie, he doesn't.
Well, after he
resist it
drinks the
anymore.
water of life, which happens in the the Lynch version in
Which
the
is
book.
pretty sad how they get that stuff, didn't you think?
I did.
I was
like,
a
is she?
little heartbroken.
I was like, is she drowning that
She's gonna
worm?
drown it? Really?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And that's from the book too.
And the
I
birdies.
mean, I knew it was coming, but
I just anyway. It's I mean.
Oh yeah, the roasted.
Yeah, the roasted birds,
roasted pigeon, or whatever.
I don't. For all the things that you could find fault in a Villeneuve movie, again, visually, it's always stunning. He has a way. You know how we always talk about how Gareth Edwards has a way of taking like a monster.
I thought of him
and making and bringing scale to life. Villeneuve has that, but he does it with sci-fi. He has a way of making it feel real.
You never forget that this is a huge barren planet, and then I loved the scene where the Fremen attack one of the Harkonnen spice harvesters.
Yeah.
So you've only seen these things in part one from the air and from the, and so this one you're seeing the Fremen popping up out of the sand as it rolls by, and it's just
with their little sand straws.
Yeah, and it's just like
it's huge.
The scale is, and that whole scene, the way that whole scene plays out, is just honestly amazing. Like if I had been watching in a venue where I could rewind, I would have rewound that scene, even though it's not really an integral part of the movie. It's amazing to see.
One other part I didn't love very much was, and I'm indifferent about it, but I will say it felt a little anticlimactic. Was you have this whole tiny subplot of the Baron's nephew, Fade, who's played by Austin Butler. And in the book, this is accurate, right? Like, the Baron has no loyalty to any of his family, right? It's just, does it serve him?
Well, in the book, Fade has tried to assassinate him twice.
Yes, right? Yeah.
And he knows that, and they talk about it openly.
So the Baron...
you tried to kill me.
So the Baron's like, haha, I got a birthday present for you, buddy. And that doesn't work out. But anyway, the point is he gives him emperorship or, ownership of Arrakis.
He says basically, stop trying to assassinate me. I will make you emperor.
Right.
Which Fade, of course, wants.
Yeah.
Fade is a sociopath and a masochist. I mean, that's basically who this person is.
And then you find out that the Bene Gesserit is really pulling a lot of strings in this whole affair. You know what I mean? There's a tie to Fade there. Anyway.
So that's kind of one of the loose ends, too. This is, I won't spoil this for everybody, but the Bene Gesserit actually send a woman to Fade to her main goal is
Leia Seydoux.
Yeah. Her main goal is to kind of try and seduce him, but mainly to figure out what his weaknesses are, because the Bene Gesserit want to know how they can control him he kills Paul and becomes emperor. They don't care about stopping this sociopath.
No.
They just want to know if they can control him, and that's really a window into how their power corruption works.
They're thinking.
And so they send this woman with that mission, but she has a secondary mission that she achieves too. And that's a pretty big loose end at the end of the movie, too.
Well, and just from you talking, you can see again how this. I mean, not. I feel like
it's so hard not to spoil it.
I feel like we can always
talk about it at the same time.
Well, no, I feel like you and I always are able to find a link somehow back to Star Wars. And so, what I was going to say was, I mean, it's very
zero R2-D2s in this movie.
Yeah, but you get the whole like, think about Revenge of the Sith when he's like. He's like, oh, I see Padme in my dreams, die. She's dying, right? But what he doesn't realize he's seeing is her, giving childbirth, and he's the one that caused it, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where the thing you fear the most, you're going to bring to pass because you fear it. And so, the whole thing like, love won't save you, Padme, only my new powers will.
So do you really
get that vibe from
since
Paul.
You brought this up. This is really a spoiler, because this isn't a spoiler of the movie that we're reviewing here today. This is a spoiler that might be a part of the third movie if it ever gets made. So everybody, if you want to turn your radio down for about 15 seconds here, in Dune Messiah, Chani dies in childbirth with twins.
Oh.
So Lucas also stole that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Were their names Luke and Leia?
I don't remember the names, but I remember reading that and thinking, Wow, George.
Are they two boys or a boy and a girl?
You just lifted everything from Dune and turned it into Star Wars. But again, Herbert defended him and said,
well, that's all you have to
these
do.
Are universal hero
You just
themes.
write a story, and then when people say you copied, say, it's the hero's journey.
It's the hero's journey.
It's the hero's journey. Yeah, he copied.
No, but yeah, I thought I was thinking about that actually as I left last night, that's something that comes up in the Dune Messiah, which again, Herbert said was kind of the actual epilogue of Dune that the publishers made him cut.
I thought it was interesting. Villeneuve was talking about the worm scene, the riding of the worm. And he said, frankly, they don't really talk about it in the book. They don't really tell you, like, how did they do this, And so you
why?
Yeah.
I thought about that a lot in the movie. I'm like, where did you need to go?
A little later, a guy rides up on a horsey, and he's like, okay.
Like, seriously, where these worms travel? Where did you need to go that this was necessary to... Or was it just one of those, I bet you can't ride one of those?
I think it was probably part of that.
The other thing, did you catch yourself wondering this? Especially when, like, they have the whole city on the worm's back at one point. Like, how do you get off?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point. How do they stop it?
How do they stop it?
Like, I'm sorry, nobody's pulling on.
Know.
That's when the thing's the size of like 12 city buses, you're not pulling on the reins.
Whoa, Bessie.
The worm's like, whoa, okay, I got it. I think it's like a systematic bailing out, and then they're all scattered over
everybody just jumps
at different intervals.
And
then they're like
3 days to regroup.
That's right. Hey, how long would it take to walk from point A to point B? Take 3 days.
Yeah, it turns out I don't really need to go. I'll see you guys when you get back.
Yeah, they just jump off. They're like, okay, everybody, meet at this point. Yeah, it doesn't seem very practical. And then you think about some of the things they had, like when they have the Reverend Mother's, I don't know what it's called, her little, her little whatever. What's it called when it's like
big square hat?
No, her little. I don't know. They put her little trailer on the top of the worm.
Yeah.
There's an official word for it. It starts with a P. I can't think of what it is. But anyway, it's not just people riding this, right? They've like got her whole like.
Oh yeah, it's like they've got little tents and houses.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Did you catch?
Like, how'd they get that off? They pushed her off within her tent.
Well, so they make Fade do the pain box thing from the first
remember
movie.
That.
But they don't show it to you, and then she asks, "Well, how did it go?" And the mother high priestess says, "He likes pain."
Yeah,
like that, and that's kind of how that's a genius way to say this is a poorly balanced sociopath that could become emperor.
Yes,
but it's that one little line where she just says, "He likes pain. He enjoyed the experience." And, talking Dune Part 2 in theaters here in Logan as of last night. If you saw it and want to weigh in, 753-5868. More of The Movie Show with Andy Morgan right after this.
Association is excited to bring them to you live in concert. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters. Two electrifying bands. One night. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters. Sell now on the Cache Valley Cruise In website. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters, July 5th at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In. Buy your tickets now on the Cache Valley Cruise In website. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters, July 5th at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In.
The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show presented by Anderson Seed and Garden is March 22nd and 23rd. As a business owner, you can visit with, invite, and explain to thousands of potential customers how your business can help. How else are you going to come in contact with several thousand people in only 2 days? The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show at the Eccles Ice and Events Center. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show or call 752-1390 for details.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People movie show with Andy Morgan. We spent the hour here on Dune, Part 2. And
I think you pronounce it Dune.
Dune, Part 2. My
desert planet.
Arrakis. Did you? We're such nerds.
Wait, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah.
I think next movie show we should never talk. We should just have those like whisper things in our brain, like in the movie.
That was something else from this movie. They made the voice that the Bene Gesserit do, including Paul's mom. They made it a lot creepier.
It was creepy. It was like demon voice.
Yeah, it was, and I thought that worked well though because they're setting. This is a darker installment.
Yeah,
this is like
that's for sure.
I thought this was kind of back to Star Wars references, since that's how everybody understands the world.
It's The Empire Strikes Back.
It's The Empire Strikes Back meets Revenge of the Sith. It's those
I can see
two, a lot of the same themes, but it has the, did the good guys just lose? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of feel to it.
Yep.
And again, I want to remind everybody, if you go see this and you're mad about the ending, this is how the book ends.
Yeah.
Well, kind
It's
of.
faithful.
They changed.
Pretty faithful.
Yeah, they change a few things, but yeah, it's for the most part. Actually, I should say this. It's when the book ends. All the things that happen in the book have happened in the movie when it ends. And so
I will say this again. The vibe I got last night and the vibe that I have of just movies in general this year is I think that cinema is back. Like we've leveled out. You know, we had obviously 2020 was weird. 2021 was even stranger. And I think we've just kind of been trying to find our footing in the last 2 years. And I think this year things are kind of back because we're not having delayed projects come out. So
well, and this was definitely Dune Part 2 is like Dune is definitely like a spectacle movie.
Yeah,
you know, it's a summer blockbuster style.
The March release is a little strange to me. I'll be honest with you, but I also do think it's a little slower for a summer release.
Yeah,
in fact, the March
but man,
thing
it has some summer blockbuster scenes in it.
It does, but the March is weird, and I think this feels like a October-November release to me.
Yeah,
like I think
wasn't that the original plan?
Yeah, people will still be talking about this, but yeah. Anyway, next week though, we get a couple new things into the theaters. We get Imaginary, the scary Teddy Ruxpin teddy bear show.
Actually, looks kind of nice.
And also, in case you didn't know, there's going to be there's a fourth Kung Fu Panda that comes out next week. In case you missed 2 and 3. After you saw the first one.
As I understand it, you can see any of the 4, and it's the same movie.
Yeah. Jack Black.
I wasn't a huge fan, although he's in Borderlands. I'm pretty excited about Borderlands.
I watched Tropic Thunder.
Oh, yeah.
It still holds up.
It does.
Even though it did get canceled today.
So not everything Jack Black does is bad.
No, that's funny. Very funny in that movie.
What was your final grade for Dune 2?
I got to give it an A.
A, like the first one?
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah. Go see it and love to hear what people think. We'll be back next week.